Today is Easter Day. Our gospel text is taken from the end of Mark's gospel, chapter 16, verses 1 through 8. There's a couple of things about this text. First of all, it is not in the gospel in which you'll find in your Bibles today the end. Scholars believe that some verses were added with post-resurrection appearances of Jesus. That's the first thing. They can't explain just why that is, who did it, etc. The second thing is, I suggest that verse 8, which is left out of the church's recommended reading for today, is absolutely crucial to this text and understanding, getting the feel of it. A little axiom or rule of thumb for reading this text and other biblical texts. In the Hebrew scriptures, remember that everything is written after the Exodus. Nothing is written before the Exodus. Everything is written after it and in the light of it. In the Christian scriptures, everything is written after the new Exodus and in the light of the new Exodus. That is, everything is written after the Passover of Jesus, the saving death and resurrection, and in the light of it. It is from the empty tomb that their faith proceeds, and they start to remember, and they write the story. So let's reflect on this Gospel of Mark. It has two distinct parts. The first one has the three women going to the tomb. Magdalene and Mary the mother of James, and Salome. They've bought spices. They're going to anoint a corpse. You can imagine walking with their heads down. They ask, who's going to roll away the stone? It's too big. They have just witnessed the end. We know Friday to be the beginning. Good Friday, we call it. It's the beginning of a sacred triduum, which ends with Easter Day. They witnessed an ugly ending, the destruction of hope. They had every reason to be hopeless. But then they discover the empty tomb, and the angel says to them, he's not here. Go and tell your brothers. And verse 8 then says, and it's just so naive, it has to be true. They went off in terror and amazement. They were seized with terror and amazement, and they fled. All of a sudden, these downcast, resigned, gloomy people, every good reason to be downcast, resigned, and gloomy, are transformed. They're full of energy. They've got fire in their belly. Yes, they're terrified. They're amazed. But they're filled with hope. They've encountered the mystery at the heart of existence. That mystery is Jesus, the risen Lord. He has passed over. They are now invited into the Paschal mystery, the dying and rising of the Lord. One of the things to note about this, hope can exist with terror. Hope can exist with amazement, incomprehension. Hope can exist with a whole array of human feelings. Hope is not about problem solving or trusting that you've got the answers or that you'll get through this. Hope is an experience that arises from an encounter with the mystery of existence, Jesus, who is the Christ. That is our source of hope. Hope is the conviction that good will triumph over evil, love over hate, truth over the lie, peace over violence. It will. The victory has been won. It may not happen in this instance, on this day. It's an ultimate victory. and we live with that hope in our hearts. I wonder if there's not in our culture a desire for hope that is grounded in human affairs and human problem solving and human inventions. So instead of hope, we get optimism. Optimism cannot bear the weight of human existence in the face of living and dying and our need for redemption. It is possible, just as we can have hope with terror and amazement and other human experiences, hope can exist with pessimism. So the question is not, are you optimistic? The question is, are you hopeful? As believers, we are hopeful because our Redeemer lives. Now, there is a very practical outcome of this, implication of it, and it's worth being quite explicit about it. We live in a time of immense change, profound and rapid change in society at large and in the church in particular. So much that we took for granted, we can't take for granted anymore. It's being taken away from us. Expectations, behaviours we thought were normal and acceptable, we can't accept them anymore. There is so much renewal and reform has to happen within society at large and within the church. Now here's particular vulnerability. If we place our hope in finding the answers to these challenges for renewal and reform, I believe we'll dispose ourselves to despair. Our hope is in Jesus. Does that mean that we therefore throw our arms up and say, well, there's nothing we can do or nothing we should do? Absolutely not. We involve ourselves in renewal and reform of society and church in the most intelligent, the most energetic, the most generous, hearted way that we can. But our hope is not in our vision or someone else's vision, or in our intelligence or someone else's intelligence. Our hope is in the Lord. So we will not despair if our particular vision is set aside. We fail. We will not despair because we encounter silliness, stupidity, pig-headedness, corruption. There's no reason for despair because we believe it, our Redeemer lives. There may be reason for pessimism, though. There may be reason for frustration, anger. We don't have to despair. Our hope is in the Lord.